Today, the Hudson County Court, James Wiley, the former superintendent of the North Bergen DPW, entered a plea and testified before the court.
This is State versus James Wiley on accusation number 573, 2012 term for plea matter. Appearances for the record.
Deputy Attorney General Cynthia Vasquez on behalf of the state.
Deputy Attorney General David Fritsch on behalf of the state.
Judge, my name is Vincent Paglia. My office is at 200 Washington Street in Hoboken, and I represent James Wiley, who's to my right.
And is there a recommendation, please?
Yes, Your Honor. In exchange for a plea to one count accusation number 573-12, charging one count of second-degree conspiracy contrary to NJSA 2C5-2. In exchange for Mr. Wiley's guilty plea, the state agrees to recommend a sentence within the second-degree range. And in addition, Mr. Wiley agrees, the state will agree to bring to the court's attention any cooperation Mr. Wiley gives us with the matter. Also, Mr. Wiley agrees to satisfy full restitution, and also in accordance with 2C51-2, there's a mandatory permanent forfeiture of office of his position.
Judge, I agree with what Ms. Vasquez said, but to more fully set out in the plea form. What you have before you, Judge, is a plea form which I received from your courtroom here a little bit earlier today. Obviously, it was in blank. I filled out the writing that's there. The handwriting is mine. But before I answered any of those questions, I went over them with Mr. Wiley. We went over the answers together. He's initialed each page of this, and he's signed at the back. The form speaks for itself. It's a rather lengthy form. I told Mr. Wiley that in essence, by pleading guilty, he's telling Your Honor that he committed this crime of conspiracy, and in essence, he's waiving his constitutional rights and, long story short, telling you to sentence him at the appropriate time.
All right. Mr. Wiley, so did you hear the recommendation put forth by the prosecutor and the comment of your counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
And your attorney explained to you the details of the plea, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understood it?
Yes, sir.
And is it true that you'd like to plead guilty?
Yes, sir.
How was Mr. Williams, sir?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony about to give to this court is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your full name for the record.
James Wiley.
Factual basis, please, counsel?
Judge, I think I'll defer to Mr. Fritsch.
Okay.
Thank you. Counselor, Mr. Wiley, in the accusation, it lists a number of overt acts that were committed in furtherance of a conspiracy to commit official misconduct. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the first three of these overt acts talk about putting together essentially a workforce to assist in election campaigns. In fact, the three campaigns that are listed are one in Bayonne and two in Jersey City, New Jersey. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And when I say putting together a workforce, you essentially utilize employees of the Department of Public Works, of which you were superintendent. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, there are three elections that are listed specifically in the accusation, but there were more elections that you did this for. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, this wasn't an idea that you came up with on your own. This was something that were there other members of this conspiracy that may not be listed here, but that asked you to do this.
Yes.
And when they asked you to do this, you amassed employees of the Department of Public Works, sent them out, sometimes accompanied them, to do work on these elections. Is that right?
Yes, well, I like to add that I was ordered to do this.
Yes, by other members of this conspiracy.
Yes.
And when you went out to do this, you were directed to specific campaigns. Is that right?
Correct.
And you went out with employees of the Department, other employees of the Department of Public Works, to these campaign headquarters, and you provided essentially a labor force on election day. Is that right?
Correct.
And you did whatever campaign labor you were asked to do that day. Is that right?
Yes.
Things like putting up signs or canvassing neighborhoods, giving out literature, things that are typically done on election day. Is that right? And afterwards, you and other members of this conspiracy helped to make sure that those employees got paid by the Department of Public Works for this labor. Is that right?
Yes.
Sometimes they get paid overtime. Is that right?
Yes.
And in order to do so, you had to submit fraudulent timesheets, telling the township that these people, these workers, weren't working on these campaigns, but rather doing labor for the Department of Public Works. Is that right?
Correct.
And that wasn't something that you could do by yourself. You needed the assistance of your supervisors, who worked under you at the Department of Public Works. Is that right?
Yes.
And those supervisors, Mr. Troy Bonero, Mr. Francis Longo, they knew about this and assisted you in this effort. Is that correct?
Yes.
They helped you to get the workers together, helped you to get the workers to the campaigns, helped you to put together the timesheets and the other paperwork to submit that so that these workers would get paid by the township. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, there's another overt act in this accusation that talks about the utilization of laborers, labor from the Department of Public Works to do work at your house. Is that right?
Yes.
And what we're talking about here is having people from Department of Public Works come to your house and do work for you. Work on your pool, help with lawn work, things like that. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And this wasn't something that happened just once or twice. This was something that happened on a regular basis for a period of time. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this wasn't something, again, that was much of a secret, was it?
No.
Everyone at the Department of Public Works kind of knew about this. Is that right? And other members of this conspiracy included the supervisors who directly supervised these laborers who were going out to your house to do personal tasks. Is that right?
Yes.
Not only did they know about it, they helped make sure, again, that these workers, they got paid. Is that right?
Yes.
And in a lot of cases, when they were going out to do work on your house on a Saturday, they got paid overtime. Is that right?
Yes.
And in order to make sure that they got paid, again, yourself, your supervisors compiled paperwork, signed that paperwork, submitted it up to the town so that the workers would get paid for this work. Is that right?
Yes.
Suckers, do you have anything to add? The state has nothing more. The state is satisfied.
Okay. Mr. Wiley, you're pleading guilty to count one of the accusations, which is conspiracy, a second-degree offense. The maximum penalty for that offense is 10 years in state prison. The maximum fine is $150,000. There are mandatory assessments, VCCB of 100, state neighbor assessment is 75, and law enforcement drinking fund assessment of 30. So you understand that, correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
You also understand that it would be very difficult to change your mind and take your guilty plea back. Because I'm likely to believe what you just told me today, and you just told the Attorney General about your involvement in it, that shows me again, rather than something you may tell me later, trying to take your plea back. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You also understand, once you're sentenced, it's even harder to change your mind and take your guilty plea back. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You also understand that you have a right, rather than plead to an accusation, to have this matter first presented to a grand jury. A grand jury consists of 23 citizens, and the state has to prove that there's probable cause to charge you with an offense. Okay? And it's a gatekeeping function of the citizens to make sure people are being charged without probable cause. And you waive that right, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there's this form here I'm going to show you. It's called waiver, criminal action waiver indictment, and your signature is located right there, correct?
Correct.
And additionally, your attorney explained to you what it meant to waive and not having not presented to a grand jury, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also understand you have a right to a jury trial, where the state has the burden of proving you guilty and then you reasonable doubt. You give up that.
Yes, sir.
You understand if you did go to trial, your attorney would have the right to cross-examine all the witnesses who are against you. He'd have the right to subpoena witnesses to testify for you on your side, and you'd have the right to testify yourself and give your version of what happened. You give up those rights.
Yes, sir.
Also, if you went to trial, you understand you have the right not to testify. You can remain silent, no one can make you be a witness, and at your request, I would tell the jury not to hold your failure to testify against you. You give up those rights.
Yes, sir.
You also understand I'm not bound by any plea bargain between you and the state. After I review the pre-sentence investigation report, if I don't believe justice is being done, I can allow you to retract your plea and go to trial on mutual charges. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Please look at the plea form, that's the pink sheet the council is going to provide to you. Now, in that form, that document, give me glasses on, you initial each page in the right-hand corner and then you sign the last page, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you and counsel know that entire document together, correct?
Yes.
He explained all that material to you?
Yes, sir.
You understood it?
Yes, sir.
And answered all those questions truthfully?
Yes, sir.
With the assistance of counsel?
Yes.
All right. Other than what we put on a record here today, in the courtroom, has anyone promised anything else or anyone threatened you to make you plead guilty?
No, sir.
Is your plea guilty entirely voluntary of your own free will?
Yes, sir.
As you stand before me in the courtroom this morning, are you under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or perhaps medicine a doctor gave you that could impair your judgment?
No.
How old are you, sir?
68.
And you can read and write?
Yes, sir.
How far did you go in school?
College plus a couple more.
Okay. Are there any other pending charges against you that you're aware of?
No.
Are you on parole or probation right now?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because in fact you're guilty of the offense?
Yes, sir.
Your attorney, he's explained everything to you?
Yes, sir.
He answered all your questions.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the legal services you received?
Yes, sir.
Before we conclude this proceeding, do you have any questions at all you'd like to ask your counsel or you'd like to ask me?
No, sir.
Counsel, it's outside the police should be entered as entirely knowing, intelligent, and voluntary on the part of your client. Yes, Judge. Any reason why you should not be accepted?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I find Mr. Wiley understands the charges, has counsel, knows the maximum penalty, he admits to the charges, he freely and voluntarily, he's voluntarily related to the jury trial, confrontation, self-incrimination. He's also waived the grand jury presentation and signed the waiver. The first before calls the plea. There is a factual basis to the entry. Promises to reduce the plea limit until set forth on the record. The defender is aware of the enhanced penalties. He must forfeit the public holding any kind of public employment. Accept the guilty plea. Sentence date will be.
Sentence date will be Friday, October 26, 2012, at 9 a.m. in this courtroom. The pre-sentence interview, you have to report on September 25, 2012 at 9:30 a.m. in room 101. That's the only notice you're going to get by the court. Failure to appear, a bench warrant will be issued.
Counsel, if you want that, I assume if it may be postponed, you'll notify us in advance.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Judge.
Thank you.
Off the record.
Wiley will return to court on October 26, where he'll be sentenced and could face a possible 10 years in prison and $100,000 in fines. For Hudson County TV, I'm Michelle Latour.